Hello. Today I'd like to talk about the a new initiative I had. I started about a month ago or so, when Google announced they're going to shut down their URL shortener at Goo.gl, which was used by a lot of people. I used it extensively for my needs, and I used it also in using their API to be able to create links on the fly for some of my other applications. And so it was disheartening to hear that they're killing it because so many people used it, so many people liked it. But the bottom line is that they're shutting it down. So there's not going to be any more Google URL shortener, no more short links. And basically people need to go elsewhere. Google announced that they prefer people to switch over to their Firebase, new Firebase, whatever they call these things. Basically links that are smart enough to be able to do to get to deep links. And bottom line is that's not what we want. I mean, it adds a whole another level of complexity, and basically most people that use the Google URL shortener wanted to use it to just create short links. I mean, it's nothing more complicated than that. And of course, there's other services available. There is Bitly, there's Owly, OW.ly. There's a bunch of services that are out there. Not a ton of them, but probably a good 5, 6, 7 services. But unfortunately, when I looked at every one of them, they're either aligned with another service. Like for example, Owly is part of Hootsuite, so you have to become a member and have an account. It doesn't cost anything, but still it's a hassle. You have to log in every time to get to it. And in terms of APIs, it's a little bit more involved when you want to use API for something like that. So long story short, everything I looked at out there I didn't like. So I decided to write my own because I figured it shouldn't be that difficult. And so today I'm going to show you what I put together so you can do the same thing, create your own short links using something like I did or something similar, whatever you want to do. And then for those who actually are interested in using mine, I can basically, I'm going to have it available for sale, one-time fee to buy it. And for those who want ultimate convenience, don't even want to set it up or anything else, then I'll take care of getting that part done as well. A little bit more expensive, but I can certainly take care of that. So 3 options. You get basically listen and write your own, like I did. That doesn't cost you anything. Or if you want to buy it, I'll be happy to give you all the code and everything so you can run your own on your own setup. And the third option is for me to get everything set up for you for a little bit more money. So with that said, let's dive right into it and see what it is. I'm going to go to the screen here and show you exactly what was done. So again, I'm Oleg with PCS. For those that don't know me, we do custom systems development design for small businesses, and lately we've been concentrating on products and services for restaurants, such as mobile ordering and customer loyalty programs integrated together, as well as digital signage and digital menus, things like that. So if anybody has any interest in that, please contact me. Otherwise, let's just go right into it here. So I called it MUSH, which is short for My URL Shortener. I figured it's a cool enough name. And so to run MUSH, it's very simple. You have a bookmark. And so I go here and I just say create short links. It's as simple as that. And so here it asks for long URL. So we'll put in something like, let's put in, I don't know, let's put in Microsoft.com, for lack of better, long URL. And of course, you can have it with parameters. You can have it as long as you want to have it. And then when you click on that, you're also able to click on the next field and select description, which is optional. But we'll call it Microsoft website just to have a description. I recommend using descriptions. That's all you have to do. You just basically need to put in a link. You click on generate short URL, and what you have here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So you can actually see a little bit better. What you have basically is you have, it shows you a long link. It says it's, what you put in as short as the description, and then it actually has the URL here for what the short link would look like. So if you remember, Google used to be Goo.gl. In my case, I did a search for, I wanted to come up with a short name, but getting a short name domain is difficult these days because most of them are taken. And so I wanted to get something that would be easily remembered, and I came up with this one for a variety of reasons. But the bottom line was everything I looked at that was semi-acceptable was either unavailable or was too long to be able to get what I wanted to get. So what I did was I found this one and I got it. So it's under my registration now. And as you can see, it's got, it's KNIL, which if you spell backward means link. So that's pretty easy to remember. Just link backwards.us, which is also pretty easy to remember. And then the actual second part is similar to Google's URL shortener, where you just have a random numbers and letters to signify the URL. And of course, it knows that once it's registered, it cannot be registered again. And there is a QR code there. So if you use the, if I'm going to jump out from here for a second and go to my URL shortener, not URL shortener, go to my QR reader, I'm going to go ahead and scan it. And when I scan it, you can see it comes up with Microsoft.com, which is exactly what we want it to have. So basically, it shows you where it's going to go once you select that. And it's as simple as that to actually use it. And so you have the code, you have the QR code, you have the actual link. If we were to copy this link right here and jump into another tab here and paste it, you will see that it will go to Microsoft.com. You can see it's pretty quick. It's basically just like going to a link. It's essentially very, very fast. Okay, so that's how it works. That's how easy it is. And so that's one part of the deal, is just being able to create short links. And then the second part is obviously you want to be able to see them. So the way that works is if you go to, if I go back to MUSH and create a list, basically click on this list of links, then I get this display here, which shows me all the different short and long links that I've created, including their QR codes, and the links themselves are linked, and you can see the actual part after the URL, after the domain. And because it's my own deal, I actually have some things that are as short as one letter or one number. And so if I simply click on this letter A, it'll jump right into my online ordering, mobile ordering app, My 10 Dishes, with that just single letter like that. So most of the links are set up so there are 5 alphanumeric digits. So just like this one here, but it's possible to have shorter links too. At least for me, it's possible since I wrote it. So that's essentially how it works. You're able to look at your links. You're able to generate new ones. And then also I have written my own little API where I can actually do the same thing that the Google Shortener API used to do, which is I'm able to use it in my own code to be able to create a short link on the fly for my applications. Because My 10 Dishes, as an example, was something that I was using, not My 10 Dishes, I'm sorry, Fred. My frequent dividends customer loyalty program called Fred, I generate short links for every registration, every user. And this is what's called a super link in there, so they can have a bunch of different functionality from a single link. And I was using Google Shortener to be able to do that. Well, now it's no longer available, at least not going forward in next year, basically. I decided that it's time to switch to something else, and that's, like I said, I couldn't find anything I really liked, so I wrote my own. So I have my own API I can use, and I can generate these links as much as I need to. And essentially, that's how it works. You can generate a link that easily, and you can also see a list of all your links and QR codes if you need to use them as QR codes. One of the benefits of using this approach is, for example, for websites for QR codes, is that I set up some promotional materials for my 10 Dishes service. And so I basically printed some cards, business cards, as promotional pieces, and I put in a QR code on that, which actually takes people to a YouTube video. So, it's kind of a nice way to, when you don't have a lot of real estate, to be able to actually show a video to people with just a QR code. The challenge with that is if you actually create a video on YouTube, for example, or anywhere else, doesn't matter where you create it, so it's accessible, and you put a QR code pointing to that video, it will work fine. You scan it, and then whoever scans it is able to go right to that video, and they can watch it, and it works great. The challenge is if you ever wanted to change that video, then all of your cards become useless because you cannot just replace a video on YouTube. You can add new ones, you can delete existing ones, but you cannot replace, as far as I know anyway, you cannot replace a video. Sorry about that, almost sneezed there. You cannot replace a video on YouTube, which obviously creates a challenge if you already had a bunch of cards printed. So using this shortener approach, it gives you additional benefit because it's basically like a dynamic link. In other words, it's not the link, physical link, it's a link that points to another URL. So it's a link to a link. And because of its dynamic nature, because it's pointing somewhere, you can actually replace that somewhere to be anything you want on the back end, and everything would still work. So in other words, instead of putting in hard-coded video on the card in terms of QR code, having a specific video on URL with a YouTube link, you actually use one of these short links, and that points to that video. So to users, it's going to be completely seamless, but it gives you the flexibility and ability to be able to simply change the pointer to point to another video, and that way you don't have to change the cards because, in other words, people will still be going to that short URL of yours. It'll point somewhere, and that somewhere could be totally changed anytime you want. So it makes it much, much more conducive. And it's not just for video, it's for anything else that you do. Is if you have some sort of static URL, static link, and you want to have it something that's dynamic, something that's changeable over time, it's a much better way to do it. You just simply give it a short URL. It's easier to use. It's more flexible because of that, and works better. So with that, like I said, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you're interested in knowing how it's done, then actually, I'm not wrapping it up yet. I take it back. I need to explain to you how it was done. So the way it was done was I wrote couple of scripts in PHP, is actually what it's written in, because I pretty much do everything in what they call LAMP, which is Linux, Apache, PHP, and MySQL. So there's a database out there that has a structure that has the short link and the long link. Okay, so there is a record in the table for every single one of these links. So whenever you generate one, it creates a record in there. And whenever you're trying to generate one, it goes out there to see if there is an existing link already. In that case, it's going to pull up. For example, if I go, let me show you real quick here. Let's say I went back to here, and I went back to MUSH. Where's my MUSH? Right here. We went to create short links, and I say I want to go to Microsoft.com, right? And so if I create a short link there, notice that it's giving me, okay, just I went a little too fast. So notice that this is what it's showing me, this link here. But if I go back to the new tab, as you can see, it's 1GOCF, right? If I go to a new tab and I paste what I copied before from last time, you can see it's exactly the same link. So in other words, the MUSH thing is smart enough to know that it's not going to just generate links for you every time you request one. If it's already in the database, then I don't think you've seen that. Okay, let me show you one more time. So you can see that I put in the same long URL, and it generated supposedly the link for me. But if I go and paste into a new tab the last link that I was using, then you can see that that last link is exactly the same link. So in other words, it's smart enough to know that the URL is that this URL has been used before, so the link obviously would be the same. It doesn't need to regenerate it. Okay, so I mean it's pretty simple that way. And the idea is that the database contains both short and long links, and the script figures out, when you do this part, it figures out if it exists, it shows you the existing link. If it doesn't exist, it generates one automatically, it stores it in a database, and then shows you the screen that shows you the actual link and shows you the QR code for it. And of course, if you wanted to grab that QR code, all you have to do is right-click in the browser and save image as, and you're able to save it as, in this case, PNG file, for example, which is pretty simple. And then you can use it wherever you want to use it for your QR purposes. And the link itself is, you can copy it, you can put it as a bookmark, you can do whatever you want to do with that. So that's how that part works in terms of getting the information and then checking it in the database, and then either pulling existing short link from the database or creating a new one from it. And of course, when I say create a new one, there's obviously some programming in there that generates random letters and numbers using 5 digits. I mean, 5 positions, I should say. And then, of course, again, I had my own domain. I registered this knil.us. So I would recommend, if you do your own setup, you do the same thing. You register some sort of short domain, whatever short domain you can get. There's extensions with 2 letters, quite a few of them. There is, ID, there is CO, there is US. I mean, there's a bunch of different extensions you could possibly look for. And then in terms of the first part, if you can get it with a few letters, more power to you. Or you can buy it somewhere. The shorter, the better, obviously, the URL. The easier it is to type, the easier it is to remember or show it to somebody else. But if it's even like this, 5 or 6 characters, it's not too bad. And then you have 5 characters in the end, it's still a fairly short URL. I mean, it's very similar to what Google used to have, let's put it this way. Not as short as ZZ / whatever, 1 character, but it's still pretty short. So that's the part about generating URLs and storing them in a database. And then, the little report simply shows the all the links that you created. And so if you decide to do this on your own, you only need to write several scripts. You create one program to be able to put in like a little form, like I just showed you, where you create the person enters a long URL. Description is totally optional. You don't have to have description. I like description because in the database, I store these descriptions in a field for the sake of readability. When you look at the database, you have all these zillion different links. You have no idea what they're for. So this makes it much easier to be able to have a little comment or description to be able to identify which links are for what. So that's the reason I have it, but you don't have to have it. And so, database is set up that way. Then you have the program that has a little form where people enter the long link and then the potential optional description, and then they get, when they hit submit, it runs the script that generates a 5-position code, and then it does what it needs to do with the database to create new records or pull existing information. It generates the QR code on the fly and then shows it on the screen to the person. That's basically it. And then the other script that I wrote, which is not mandatory, but certainly I'd recommend you would have that as well, which just simply reads through the database and shows you all these links and shows you all these things on the screen. Otherwise, if you don't have them bookmarked, how would you know what you have without going to the database? So it makes it a little bit easier to deal with by looking at it in that manner. Obviously, you can do all kinds of embellishments. You can potentially expand it to do more than that, but to basic use for short URLs is basically all you need there. And then if anybody decides to actually purchase it, then I would also supply the code necessary for doing an API thing, where if you write your own programs and you want to generate short links on the fly, you can definitely do that with MUSH. It works really well, and I just started using it yesterday actually with my frequent dividends, and works great, very fast, and it's fine. So for those who want to create it, this is basically all it's required to create it. You don't have to use PHP. You can use other languages if you want, as long as you have access, and you don't have to use MySQL. You can use another database. I did it this way because that's what I developed most of my stuff in, so I know it pretty well, number one, and number two, it works really well. So between the reliability and the speed and it's ubiquitous access practically from every host out there. Everybody runs PHP, everybody runs MySQL. Makes it very easy to deploy anywhere on anybody's host, and you run it from the cloud. Mine runs from the cloud, so it works great. Eventually, if you wanted to do it for a really real kind of serious environment with many people creating many links, where you would need a lot more horsepower, you could potentially even deploy it on the compute engine or the app engine that Google runs, using their super infrastructure to scale it so you can have millions of people generating links if you wanted to. So there's all these moves upwards that are possible. But for basic use by individual or even small company, you can easily get away with the regular hosted shared account. It's going to be perfectly fast, perfectly capable to be able to do what you want to do there. So for those who are interested in purchasing, one-time purchase price, contact me on Google Plus, and I'll be happy to talk to you about the details. If you're interested or your company is interested in purchasing that specifically with the intent of actually setting it completely up by PCS, be happy to get it set up for you and get it going, totally troubleshoot it, make sure you just get the final product works perfectly fine without you needing to do anything at all. You just start using it, including the API. Again, contact us on Google Plus, and we'll take care of you as well. If you have any questions, please drop them into the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And so for those who are looking for URL shortener that Google is abandoning, this is one way how you can potentially create your own and take care of things you need to take care of. Thank you. Till next time.